I don't like apology videos. I always find them very lame, insincere, and whenever I see apology videos, I shake my head and I feel like changing the channel. But I want you to stay with me because this is a Supergirl apology. Yeah, you heard that right. A Supergirl apology. Now, what sparked this was I did a video a while back, about about a month ago, and I made some what some people thought was disparaging comments about the upcoming Supergirl movie. This was back, I'm going to show you a video when I was much younger, way more good looking, but also a little bit naive. Here, check this out.
I mean, is she going to be drunk through the whole movie? Is she just going to wreck shop and not care about anyone? And I said, no, Elisha, she's not going to be like that. She can't be like that, really? This is Supergirl we're talking about.
See that video right there? Yeah, yeah, that was me. I didn't know all of the facts. And one of you people pointed it out to me, such as this guy right over here. He says, it's very clear in your rant that you've never read the Supergirl book the movie is based off of, and also failed to recognize the Absolute Woman series. After watching the trailer, the first thing I did was I read the comic Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and now I'm hyped. It's clearly defined the difference between Clark and Kara. One who grew up in a safe environment while the other saw death. Do yourself a favor and rent the book from the library. Understand it and do a follow-up video. Yeah, that's what this guy said to me. But again, I was young. I was inexperienced about the world of Kara. And I had no idea at all about Supergirl and the struggles and the trials that she went through and her so-called lived experience. I didn't know anything like this, right? So I had to do my homework. I had to walk a mile in her shoes. I had to put on her cape and to figure out what's going on inside of her 21-year-old mind. Because when I watched the trailer, I said, why is she ranting and raving? And why is she drunk all the time? Is this going to be the Supergirl that we are going to experience through the whole movie? But I took this guy's advice. That's why instead of going to the library, because he says you should go to the library and rent the comic book. I didn't do that. I took it one step further. I went and bought me a brand new spanking edition of Woman of Tomorrow. I hope you're pleased, right? Especially this guy that left the comment. I went out of my way. I sacrificed hard earned money. I didn't just go to the library and rent it. I purchased this. And you know what? I'm glad I did because this is my first superhero comic book I've ever bought. I like the idea of comic books, but I've never read a comic book. But I actually did. I put some hard-earned money into this book. And check out the pages. I thought it was going to be a lot thinner than this. I was like, what? But then I realized that this is a complete series. I think there's 8 editions in this book. Now, just before I get to this book, hopefully my apologies is out of the way because now I'm educated, right? Because when I thought of Supergirl, one of my first introductions of it was back in 1984. Remember the Supergirl movie? You're probably not as old as me, but there was a Supergirl movie. It kind of came and went out of the theater. It wasn't all that great. You had a, a blonde, beautiful girl. It looked like she was from a fairy tale. She was basically Clark Kent, but even nicer, even more polite, if you could believe it, than Clark. And she didn't have all that much dimensions to her. And in fact, the acting from, I think her name is Helen Slater, the one that played in 1984, it was really, really bad. Probably not her fault, because I think that's the way that the directors and that's what they wanted her to be like. But I found it a little bit off-putting. And in fact, I didn't survive not even 20 minutes of the movie. Not even that. And then I had the experience growing up of Supergirl in the Justice League. And that was a little bit better. She wasn't a mainstay of the group, but she was in there here and there throughout throughout the whole Justice League cartoons. Then I got a little bit more into it. And then remember, of course, you remember Smallville, right? Yeah, she was in Smallville. And I thought that was an interesting idea of a Supergirl, even though there was something off with that as well. In fact, the person that played Kara, she didn't even like her role in Smallville. She thought that her role, it portrayed her as more of eye candy, and it didn't get into her true acting strength and her abilities. And looking back at Smallville, yeah, I could see that. I kind of see the idea of where they're taking the character because she was a little bit more edgy than our beloved Clark Kent. She was, definitely. And then later on, you had the Supergirl TV show from CW. I watched about one or two seasons. It was okay. It was a little bit more for a younger audience, I feel. And you had Supergirl, she was quirky and interesting, and she had relationships in the office because she worked in the office at the time, and she was all right. But again, she kind of felt just like a gender swap between Clark Kent. That's what it felt like. It wasn't all that original. But then we had The Flash. Now, I didn't like the Flash movie, but I'm not a person that's going to tell you don't watch. I don't like when people say that. Remember I told you that. You can watch whatever movie you like to. I just didn't like the movie The Flash. But what I did like was the portrayal of Supergirl. She was she was incredible. She didn't fit the stereotypical beauty. She had a different look to her entirely. And also within that movie, she didn't have all the niceties and the politeness of a Clark Kent. So I think they were getting it a little bit more correct. And I feel that everything is adaptation. Or writers and producers are always looking at their works and growing and making adjustments to it. And that's fine. Now, okay, back to the creme de la creme. I didn't get through all of this yet. I mean, this is a lot of reading that I have to do, but this is very good because the reason why you understand when you watch the trailer now that she was in a really bad place. She was brought up on Krypton. Not like not It's not like Clark Kent. Clark Kent, he was only a baby when his planet was exploding and they put him into that capsule and they sent him to Earth and he grew up like with a loving, stable, functional family, apple pie and the farm life, and he just had a great upbringing. But Kara had the complete opposite because she was a teenager. Some people say she was about 13 or 15 years old at the time. She was going to school, she had her best friends, she was living that Kryptonian lifestyle, whatever that is. She was living it. She was a happy girl. And then all of a sudden, her world was literally breaking apart on her, and her friends were dying. The whole planet was dying. And then they had to take her off of that planet. But she didn't go to Earth. She wasn't. at the beginning, she wasn't a part of a loving family. No, no. In fact, some people say that she went through the phantom zone, so the aging stopped. She stopped aging at the time. Or and there's some other versions that she went to another part of the galaxy where the aging process slowed down. So that's why she's actually older than Clark, but she doesn't look like that. And a lot of versions of her, she looks like a teenager or she looks like 21 years old, like in the upcoming Supergirl trailer, but she's actually much older. But when she was dismayed, she wanted to go to a planet where she could literally get drunk. That's what she wanted to do. So she went to a place where there's a red sun. And as you know, if you are a Superman geek, the red sun it makes Superman or any Kryptonian, they lose their powers. So that's what she wanted to do because if she went to Earth, she wouldn't be able to get drunk because the effects of alcohol, it doesn't work on a Kryptonian. So she went to a place where there's a red sun, really just to forget all of her miseries, all of her sorrows. And then there's this girl, her name is Truthy or Ruthie. She has a really weird name. And she said that her father was murdered and she wants to avenge her father. So she wanted Supergirl to avenge her. And that's really what the story is about. It's about Kara understanding that she has to be that hero that this other planet wants her to be. And so the story takes place in another world far away from Earth itself, where she has to learn compassion. She has to learn all of these things of how to be heroic. And I like that. It's a redemptive tale. And I think a lot of people could relate to that because we don't all have it on straight. We're not all of us are from a functional family the way that Clark was with Martha and Jonathan Kent and we're not all like that. A lot of us we have it rough. We have dysfunctional families. Not everything in our life is copacetic. There's challenges, there's battle scars, and that's what Kara had. So she had to go through that, and she did. So she has out of all the DC characters, from what I've learned, she's the most complicated. Now, I'm a novice, right? I'm not a comic book geek. As I said, this is my first comic book, right? So I don't have all the ins and outs and everything like that. But from what I've been told, she has a complicated life. So now, you know what? I'm kind of excited to see this new Supergirl movie and where it's going to take us. Hopefully somewhere good, but I'm going to be there. Probably not on opening day. I'm not, I have responsibilities. I'm not as young as I was before, especially in that video, right? I'm not going to wait in line. So I'll probably see it a week or 2 weeks after it comes into the theater. But hopefully, I will be there with my microphone in hand and talking to people as they exit the theater and asking them some incredible journalistic questions of what do you think of the movie? Is it what you thought of it? Those type of hard hitting questions. But let me know what else you're reading. Am I on the right track? What other superhero books should I get so that I could be like my geeky nerdy friends that complained that I had disparaging comments about Kara? Again, if there is a comic book that you want me to check out, leave all the information in the comments. I am brand new to the world of comic books. I didn't know that they were so good. And also another thing, I didn't understand this when I was reading this, because this is my first time actually reading a comic book. But do you see this symbol right over here? I was thinking, what does this mean? Because Kara will always say this. What is she saying? I don't understand these squiggly lines and the symbol right over here. And then I realized, oh, This is when the character is swearing in the book. This is a symbol of swear words. I didn't know that. And also, when you're reading comic books, I didn't understand it was hard for me to follow the pattern of what to read next with all the panels. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a novice, right? So, but now I know. But what I'm going to do next time, because the print of these comic books are so small, and I'm getting up there in age, so I need, next time when I read, I'm gonna put on my glasses, because I have to squint a little bit to see the printing on the page. But if you're younger than me, then you're probably not even going to worry about that. In fact, you're probably going to be laughing at the old man for having a hard time reading a comic book. Let me know what you think. And at the meantime, you could check out my podcast. It's called Welcome to Earth Stories. Now, what this is, it's sci-fi original stories. Picture the Twilight Zone and the Black Mirror getting together to have a baby. That would be Welcome to Earth Stories. And the website is welcometoearthstories.com. That's about it for me. Thank you very, very much for listening, for watching, and for spreading these videos with your friends. All right, all the best. Cheers, and I'll talk to you soon.